So this right here is why I get up at the ass crack of dawn and go shoot photos. Absolutely love it. Super beautiful, man. In this video, I want to take you guys through my process of approaching weird photos. I guess the goal here, I'm going to go out and I'm going to shoot a couple of rolls of Fuji. I want to bring you guys with me and kind of like talk through some of these scenes, kind of how I'm approaching a scene, what I'm looking at, what I might be doing. I'm going to use some filters, some multiple exposure techniques, and when everything's finished, I'm going to take the rolls and I'm just going to soup them to make sure that we come away with something that's pretty funky looking. So I'll talk through everything and bring you guys with me. So let's get into it. So this shot, this is the Archives building. I love this thing. It looks freaking massive. But what I'm going to try to do here is I'm going to flag this. I'm going to shoot some multiple exposures and I'm going to flag it on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to shoot it twice and then I'm going to take basically like a black card and I'm just going to, the first exposure, I'm going to shoot it and I just use this black Polaroid card here to block off. But I'm going to block off the lens on the first shot, kind of halfway like this, okay, and then I'm gonna flip everything over like that, and then on my second exposure, if I can find the thing here, I'm gonna go ahead and block off the second exposure, and hopefully what's gonna come out of that is I'll get this really cool mirrored image of this Archives building. One thing I really like to use when I'm doing the mirrored images is I love trees. I think trees kind of make a really cool, I don't know, bottom side, especially trees like this, is fairly full of leaves. I think it looks super wicked if like you have branches kind of like spreading out, like almost like tendrils. And I'll go ahead and I'll do the blocking off one side, take the shot, flip it over, and then I like to, I don't know, superimpose that with something different, like maybe like a building top or like a peak or a church peak. It could really, come out with some cool results. Ooh. Ah. It's worth mentioning that if your goal is to create like a mirrored double exposure, then at least what I do is I like to set my shutter speed. I'll meter the scene, see what the scene calls for, and then I'll go ahead and I'll set my camera in a manual before I block off the lens. Because if you take your flag and you're blocking off the lens while it's making that reading, it's going to reduce the amount of light coming in the lens, and it might give you kind of like a wonky reading or a mismatch reading when you go to do the second mirrored exposure. So just I guess to keep everything kind of even, and you can do that or not do that, but that's just how I like to do it. So I'm checking this sign out. I think this do not enter sign could possibly make like a good double exposure. What I'm thinking is to just frame this out completely and then double expose with something interesting. So I don't know what, but just walking around and trying to overlay this image on something interesting. Now when I shot this, I dropped back my ISO by one stop. This called for a 1/16 of a second, so I went ahead and I'm shooting it at 125th because I want to give a little bit more room for the second exposure to superimpose and kind of blend everything together. So I'm going to go walk around and see if we can't, I don't know, find something cool. I see this cluster of windows here, and I think this may work for like our overlay of that do not enter sign. And what I'm looking for is kind of like a flat scene, because I don't want, any kind of high contrast light to compete with my first exposure. And I think this might look cool, or at least it'll definitely work as far as like the light. Whether it's going to look cool, we'll see in the end whether it does or not. I'm hoping it does, but I think like the repeating windows might be kind of interesting. It might not. I don't know. We'll find out, I guess. Another thing that I really love to use are Prism filters. It almost feels like a cheat sheet, you know what I mean? Because like right out of the gate, you just get this really sick looking image. But imagine you take this and then you multiple expose this image with something different, or in our case, we're going to soup this roll. So I think you're going to get some really crazy and wild results. The way I look at taking multiple exposures is it's an opportunity to kind of mix things up between each frame. You don't necessarily have to do like a static exposure on top of a static exposure. Sometimes I think it's kind of cool to like vary the zoom length or even the focus. So like on one shot, you might have like a shot at a certain distance, and then you kind of mess with the lens either through zooming it or throwing it out of focus, and then kind of superimpose that second exposure. You can really kind of get some like ethereal, I don't know, like real cool vibey photos. So this shot, what I think I might do is double expose this shot. One shot I'm going to hit blurry, so like kind of out of focus, and then my second shot I want to take in focus and maybe vary the zoom length a little bit. Hopefully they'll, I don't know, come away with something cool that layers interesting. Ooh. So I'm coming up on this building here, and I can't help but notice all of these freaking repeating windows. I mean, this building basically just, it screams, shoot me, you know, make me look cool.
Shoot me.
And who am I to argue? So, you know, I don't know if I'm going to use a filter. I'll figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. Just this is what drew me, was that repeating pattern of the windows. I think in some way could absolutely look cool. So I'm going to try a bunch of different techniques and see what we can come away with. So we had a casualty. I dropped this filter not once, not twice, but 3 times in a row, and it looks like we definitely cracked the glass. There was a little arm in here that I broke off as well, so still usable, but that kind of sucks. I think this would be a really cool shot if I did a mirror image and I shot it vertically, so I would get most of this here, and then I kind of did the cut line for my my black card kind of right about there, and then match those two up. I think that would definitely look kind of cool, I think. Now, I didn't go through and narrate like every single shot from this roll of Fuji, but I did take some other ones that are decent, so I'll go ahead and I'll show those now. Whenever I'm developing at home, I always try to develop in batches of no less than 2, because I don't know, my Patterson tank has 2 reels, and it's just for the sake of efficiency. It does take time to heat things up, or at least mix things up. So I'd already had 1 roll of Fuji shot, and I figured, you know, why not and go out and shoot 1 more. So I finished up the roll and I'm getting ready to pull it out and mix up some soup and then just dump it in, let it soak. But before I do that, I've got to obviously rewind it and pull it out. And just a real quick tip, if you're going to develop your own film and you're going to load it onto a reel, the easiest thing to do, at least that I've found, is not rewind it all the way. If it's an automatic rewind, obviously it's kind of a moot point and you got to retrieve it, but it's just so much easier to not have to retrieve the roll in the back. So what I'll do is I'll rewind it just to the point of like I'll feel when it gives. So I'm like rewinding it, it's got tension, 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 and it'll, oh, right there, it gave. So I felt the tension release, so I'm going to pop this open and the leader should now not be sucked all the way in.
How to film Soupy Soup Soup.
And we're ready to rock and roll with the soup to get everything put together and soak these babies. So what you're going to need is a couple rolls of exposed film, which we have there, some dish soap, some salt, a little bit of lemon juice, some measuring cups, or measuring spoons rather, something to stir everything with, and I use ball jars. That's 12 ounces, so you want to use about a cup of water. Ball jars work good for me. They have a top, you can just kind of mix everything up and just set it aside. What I'm going to do, I have a thermometer here. I like to do water about like, I don't know, really coming out of the hot side of your tap is fine. Anything like 125, 130. Obviously you don't want to do boiling water unless you're really going for something extreme. I want to have some somewhat usable pictures out of this, so I'm just going to go with some tap water, use the hot side, and I'm going to turn that on. I'm going to use a thermometer to make sure that I'm getting a hot enough temperature, and then I'm going to go ahead and fill up my jar full of water. I'm going to go with 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, about a teaspoon of dish soap, then I'll sprinkle in a little bit of salt, and then we can go ahead and drop our exposed rolls of film in the soup. And when I stir this, I try to be kind of like gentle. I don't want to make too many bubbles. Like I want to get a good mixture, but I don't want to go too crazy with the bubbles. But you do you, whatever you want to do. But that's just kind of what I found I like to do. Now I'm going to pop this cap on and wait about, I don't know, 4 hours. You could do this, it could sit anywhere from 4 hours to overnight. Longer soups, you could even go days. It depends on the strength of the soup. It's kind of really how long and the results that you want. You're going to have to experiment, but for this, I'm going to use what we've measured here, and then I'm going to let that sit for 4 hours before I develop everything. You know what I find interesting is you could take 2 sequential shots like these horses, okay, side by side, one after the other. One gets slammed by the soup, right? And then the other one comes away pretty much unscathed. I don't know. I can't explain it. Maybe the way that the roll sits or the way that the chemicals sit on the roll I don't know. I just always found that kind of funny. But yeah, so it's unexpected 100%. I know a lot of the motivation behind shooting experimental film or shooting experimentally with your film is kind of for those unexpected results. But I don't know, I felt, at least this past time, I feel like the more I shoot like this, kind of the easier it gets to predict the outcome. I'm sure, it comes down to practice and whatever, and there's definitely still going to be some variation, especially like when you're throwing your stuff in chemicals and souping and all this other stuff. But I don't know, I felt like it was a real big win when I was going for a certain result and, still throwing caution to the wind, but coming away with more keepers than not. Now, there's really just so many ways that you can get some interesting results when shooting film. The couple techniques that I did here with multiple exposures and filters and lenses, that really just scratches the surface. I mean, you can go crazy. You could start wrecking your negatives. You can draw on them. You can collage. I mean, really, there's just so much that you could do. I do have a playlist. I'll link at the end with some other techniques. But even like a search on Instagram, with like experimental film, it'll keep you busy. So I mentioned how I was kind of, I don't know, pretty happy with the majority of shots that I got. My hit rate was pretty high, and I nailed most of what was on this roll with, I think, keepers. But that's not to say there was definitely some misses and there was some fails. And I kind of like review those and think, okay, like what went wrong? What did I do? And in reviewing some of these, and I'll show you these on the way out here, but in reviewing these, I think flagging a zoom at a wide angle, just because I have the flag at the center point, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to block off the center of the lens. I think because of the wide curvature, I think of how the lens bends the light. Anyway, that's my guess. But you'll see, like on some of these mirrored images, there's a definite black mark because there wasn't an overlay. So, but anyway, I don't know if you guys do that, kind of assess what went wrong, if you had, not to say that you have anything go wrong, but if it were to, I don't know, that's something I like to do. But anyway, here comes the fails in all their glory. Hope you guys are well, and thanks for hanging out. If you guys want to share this with, I don't know, an experimental group, or I don't know, a friend who likes experimental stuff, that'd be super cool. That's cool. And with that said, we'll see you next time.